Darryl "God" Whiting didn't grow up in Boston. He brought New York to Boston. In the mid-1980s, crack cocaine was exploding across American cities, and Boston was just starting to feel that wave. Into that moment walked a tall, confident dealer out of Queens, New York, named Darryl Whiting, known in the streets as God. He didn't come alone. Whiting rolled with the New York Boys, a crew of out-of-town hustlers ready to turn Boston's roughest blocks into organized, around-the-clock money machines. They set their sights on one place, the Orchard Park housing projects in Roxbury. Orchard Park already had its own street legends, its own local dealers, and its own politics. But Whiting wasn't interested in fitting in. He was interested in taking over. According to residents, the New York Boys came in with discipline, structure, and intimidation. They focused on one stretch inside the projects that would become infamous, a strip nicknamed Bump Road. This wasn't just a corner. Whiting turned Bump Road into a 24-hour open-air crack supermarket, a place where customers could come anytime, day or night, and find what they wanted. The operation ran in shifts, like a factory. Runners, pack workers, lookouts, stash handlers, everyone had a role, and everybody answered to God. Prosecutors would later estimate that at the height of the empire, the Orchard Park operation was pulling in up to $100,000 a day. Over time, investigators believed Whiting's network moved cocaine worth roughly $11 million through Boston's streets. Whiting carried himself like a boss. People remember him as sharply dressed, rolling in a Mercedes, projecting the image of a larger-than-life Kingpin walking through the projects. But that image came with fear. Residents described beatings, intimidation, and ruthless enforcement for anyone who crossed the organization. If you tried to sell without permission, you were a problem. If you refused to buy their crack, you might be made into an example in front of everyone. The New York Boys squeezed local competition out of Orchard Park, turning the projects into Whiting's turf and locking down the flow of product and money. Behind the scenes, the supply chain was moving. Kilos of cocaine were brought into the region, broken down, cooked into crack, and bagged for sale, feeding the demand that seemed to never stop. On the street level, the crack era changed everything. Families were torn apart, violence spiked, and entire blocks started revolving around the trade. For a while, it looked like nobody could touch Whiting's operation. He had the money, the muscle, and a reputation that kept people quiet. But in the background, federal agents were watching. The feds didn't just see street dealing, they saw a structured criminal enterprise they wanted to tear down. They built a case, piece by piece. Informants, wiretaps, drug seizures, and witnesses from inside Orchard Park. What made Whiting's situation different was the charge they went after, the continuing criminal enterprise count, the so-called Kingpin statute. In 1991, Darryl "God" Whiting went to trial in federal court. He faced more than 20 cocaine distribution charges, money laundering counts, and that heavy enterprise charge on top. Witnesses took the stand and painted a picture of Orchard Park under his control. The shifts, the hierarchy, the money, and the fear. The jury believed the government. Whiting was convicted, and the judge handed him the ultimate punishment for a drug dealer at that time. He received life in federal prison with no possibility of parole on the enterprise count, plus additional time on the other charges. That sentence made headlines. He became the first person in Massachusetts to get a life without parole sentence based solely on drug dealing. For Orchard Park, the fall of Whiting and the New York boys created a power vacuum. When a major organization disappears overnight, the streets don't suddenly go quiet. Smaller crews and new players scramble to fill the space. Boston would go on to see more violence and more gangs in the years after, as the city struggled with the long shadow of the crack era. From behind bars, Whiting has tried to reshape his story. He wrote books, including Taken It to Another Level, and presented himself as a thinker reflecting on crime, power, and the system. Over the years, he has gone back to court more than once, asking judges to reduce his sentence and give him a second chance at life outside the fence. So far, those efforts haven't worked. Federal judges have refused to cut that life sentence, keeping Darryl "God" Whiting locked up for the empire he once ran out of Orchard Park. Today, his name still echoes through Boston's history as the man who brought a Queen-style crack empire to the projects and made an estimated $100 grand a day until the law caught up. This is the rise and fall of Darryl "God" Whiting, a New York kid who turned a Boston housing project into $1 million drug empire and paid for it with the rest of his life. If you want more real stories from America's crack era, make sure you follow, like, and share. More kingpins, more cities, more untold history coming next.